The following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
Welcome to the System is Down.
Hey, what's up, Downers? Welcome to the very first official episode of The System is Down, and I thank you so very much for inviting me back into your ears for uncomfortable discussions. I am Dan Smots, and on today's episode, I sat down with three of my good friends to discuss their backgrounds and stances on CPR, or Conspiracies, Politics, and Religion. We didn't dig too deeply into any specific topics this time around. These are three guys that I chat with often, so as they're likely to be joining me pretty frequently on the show, I thought it would be fun to have a little powwow of sorts and just let you guys get to know everyone. We had a great time, and just fair warning, as this is my first interview, feel free to laugh as I fumble to find my footing, not entirely unlike a newborn Bambi. So, all that said, and without further ado, let's get weird. My guests today are three of my best friends, best buds.
Whoa.
And
That's a really strong statement.
That's high praise.
all three of these people I have known for a good while and have made music with, and two of the three were in my wedding. And all three of them I have frequently chatted with about these uncomfortable topics over a couple drinks in the past. So let's go ahead and introduce everybody. I've got Nathan, Craig, and Cole here. Nathan, let's start with you. How do you feel about the fact that you were not in my wedding?
To tell you the truth, it has been one of the defining facets of my life. I frequently look back on that day with sadness and regret.
Yeah, well, I was in yours, so,
It's all better.
apparently one
That
of us
made up for it.
Yeah.
likes the other more than...
I just want to point out, I was in attendance. I'm not some dirtbag.
Yes. All right. Well, yeah, we're talking about conspiracies, politics, and religion, and with this, I would just like to kind of go over everybody's backgrounds with these things, our kind of our upbringing, and where we currently stand, and where we would like to go in the future with these discussions and everything. So,
Sounds great. Do you want to introduce the other gentleman here?
no, not really.
Fair enough.
We'll get to that.
The bodily voices that you will be hearing.
All we care about is the guy who was not in the wedding.
Yes. All right. I wasn't introducing you. I was just asking how you feel. But, yeah, Cole is my brother-in-law. He has been ever since I got married. And Craig, I've known, he is my blood.
Are we sure about that, though?
Yes.
Ever since then?
Craig is my actual brother by blood. And I've known him for literally as long as I can possibly remember. So, yeah, let's just kick it off. Let's start with where we are now, like where we stand with everything. Conspiracy-wise, I'll go first. Conspiracy-wise, I'm an enthusiast. I enjoy digging deep. I'm probably more of an enthusiast than is healthy. I would say I am now a practicing enthusiast as I am putting these thoughts out into the world. So, yeah, I enjoy looking into every single crazy idea and discussing it and doing so with an open mind. Nathan, how about you?
Yeah, I would say I definitely have an interest in conspiracy, but a much larger part of me says, even if I could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these theories are true, what could I do to alter the course of my life and these theories? So I guess I look at them as interesting, perhaps,
Sure.
like case studies for intellectual progress and thought, but overall, I don't really see any value in pursuing them because I couldn't do anything to change whether we landed on the moon or not.
Right.
So
what you're
just
saying
what I
is
say.
I'm interested. I'll hear you out, but in the end, I really don't care.
It's not that I don't care. It's that I don't feel like I have any ability to alter the course of the future. If the president is like a minion of some ultra secretive organization, I've never spoken to a president, current or former. I have very little influence on what the president or anyone else of power does or does not do. So it's different for me.
Yeah, I won't push back too hard on this episode, but we'll get into that more later. Craig, how about you?
Well, I'd say right now, I would definitely, forever actually, I've always considered myself a conspiracy enthusiast, not a conspiracy theorist, because I don't make up my own ideas. Or as far as enthusiast, I'd say went the last probably 8 years just being interested in anything conspiracy related, not buying into really any of it. But, I mean, it makes for a good read. It makes for good fiction most of the time. However, probably about 3 or 4 months ago, I think it's probably because you kept bothering me with your craziness and all your YouTube videos and stuff that you kept sending me.
Yeah.
And so finally I actually watched one, possibly.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So, I think the more I actually dug into it, I mean, I didn't even scratch the surface, and as soon as I started scratching the surface, I started realizing, well, these stories aren't adding up. The official story isn't adding up. And I came from a side, in all three of these areas you're discussing, I come from a very strong one side as far as religion, conspiracies, or politics. I came from one side of it and very strong, believed it. And now, for the most part, I'm not buying into any of them, really. I'm becoming a cynic in all things. I'm starting to question basically all things. Like I said, as soon as I started just minorly scratching the surface in some of these, the actual stories, the official stories, don't add up for most of them. And I'm not going to get into the actual specific ones, but for the most part, the ones I've dug into, I could see how any of them is possible. A lot of them are possible anyway.
Yeah.
And
even if they're not, they're really good thought experiments. Like, what if this? And seeing all the evidence that could lead to that. It's just, I find it very interesting, entertaining, even if I can't do anything about it. I'm not I'm not living my life in fear that we're going to bring on this New World Order apocalypse or anything like that. But I do enjoy a good story, be it fictional or not. It's really, a lot of them are, really just interesting to look into.
I just think, for the most part, in my opinion, is anybody in any position of power is covering a lot of crap up, and I'm just now coming to realize how much I feel that they are covering up, regardless of how true the actual stories are. I do feel there's a lot of cover up that should be looked into.
Yeah. Cool. How about you? What's your crazy level?
Let's see. I think for sure there's a lot we do not know. There's a lot that the government stands to benefit from not telling us, or I say the government, but whatever power that may be in whatever instance. But
you're pretty high on this.
I mean, I don't think that we know. I think we're told what we need to hear a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so, I don't always buy into every single little conspiracy, and a lot of them I'm very leery of. I don't just immediately get on board with these things.
Yeah.
I don't know. At first, with certain conspiracy theories, I'm like, well, there's no way. But then, I might think harder about it and then get, to where I might be able to think open-mindedly about it. But there's a lot of things that I don't think the official story is the truth. I guess I'm not an enthusiast of conspiracy theories. I mean, I hear it out. I will hear it out. I will give my opinion on it, and I will look into it to a degree, mostly at your referral, Dan.
Yep.
Because, I mean,
It's
man,
a lot of power you hold over all of
Seems to be the trend.
it's that you are the real enthusiast, and that I'm like, okay, I'll look into that. I'll watch these videos.
Yeah, and honestly, I know this might be hard to believe since I'm probably the craziest person here on this topic as I bring you all into this insanity. But yeah, everything that I look into, I try to look at it as, let's disprove this. Let's see how, like, I'm going into it skeptically, even though I love the idea that all these things are true, but I don't accept them as truth until I see enough evidence or try and disprove them.
What, that all the conspiracies are the truth, or the thing that the official story we're told is the truth?
Oh, the conspiracies.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Which, I mean, I think either way is
I know
kind of
that
the
even
wrong
if
way of thinking.
I think even if the conspiracies aren't true, I think that we are certainly being misled on quite a few things.
Right. And, I think that the first marked time that I can remember that I actually started thinking this way was probably when we visited you guys in Ohio, when we stayed at your house and
He's had you for a while.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, what were we doing? We were just sitting around at your house, and then you're like, dude, have you heard about Sandy Hook? Let's look this up.
Hey, no specific topics yet. Keep it moving.
So, I mean, that was one of the first time. I mean, I think I've always thought for myself, and obviously anybody would want to say that, but I think I question things. I'm a cynical person for sure, but you present me with a conspiracy theory, and I'm usually skeptical of the theory.
Yeah.
Rather than open-armed accepting it right away.
Yeah.
But
No.
so, like Craig said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist
Yeah.
myself, but I'm open to
Crazy.
thinking about the alternative.
Yeah.
So that's about all I could say for it. And I will push back on things that seem unfounded. So.
Sure. All right, I want to take a quick break here to talk about our sponsors. However, we are still rambling babies who have no idea what we're doing, so we don't have any sponsors. So I would instead like to take a second to give shout-outs to people, podcasts, products, and businesses that I love personally. We'll call them maybe future sponsors. So my future sponsor today is DonorSee. That's DonorSee. DonorSee is an app that is literally giving you the ability to change the world. They are a non-profit donation company that shows you a need that someone has in the world, how much money is required to meet that need, and once you contribute your chosen amount to the cause, they provide you with real-time updates with pictures and video on how you were personally able to impact that person and directly improve their quality of life. These campaigns cover everything from building shelters for the homeless, to providing clothing for children rescued from sex trafficking, to covering hospital bills for burn victims. DonorSee is revolutionizing the way we give by allowing you to see exactly where your money is going and how you are seriously changing someone's world. There's no minimum amount and no fees to sign up. You can just skip your next Starbucks coffee and feed someone for a week. Just look up the DonorSee app. Again, that's DonorSee, all one word, or visit DonorSee.com. Put a little money where your mouth is and start changing the world. Do it. Well, yeah, let's move along. I don't want to paint a broad brush of us being crazy people here just yet, so let's move on to politics.
We'll get into that later.
Episode 2, or official 1, we'll certainly start painting. For politics, I would say that I currently, and this just happened within the last year and a half, am libertarian leaning, very much so, anti-big government, and think that the government should leave us alone, and taxation is an abuse of power and everything. I would say I am, You doing all right over there?
My bad. Trying to open a beer.
Yeah, I would say that because of a lot of podcasts and things that I've listened to, a lot of research that I've done, I lean mostly towards libertarianism, which is a big, broad spectrum, but I'm open to everything. Raised hardcore red team and go team. We're going to win because Jesus. But, yeah, now I am not leaning that way so much. Ironically enough, the only reason that I really started getting into politics at all was because of Donald Trump. So I thank him for that. And
And nothing else.
So are you saying you support
nothing
Donald
else.
Trump?
I am saying that I am a racist. Yes.
That's what I
That's
thought.
a good thing to have.
That's what I heard in my my headphones.
Just
but
get that out there.
Maybe you said something else.
No.
Yeah,
I
just the spectacle of what he is. I think it kind of got anybody that wasn't already into politics paying attention because it's a spectacle.
it woke people up and made people like, what are we doing here? What is going on? And I got into the last election in early in the primaries and started watching all the debates on both sides and everything. And I was like, this guy is not Trump, but this guy and this guy has some good points, but I don't really agree with everything that they're saying. And actually started looking into the Green Party and the Libertarian Party and found the most connection to the Libertarian Party. But yeah, I would say practicing in that I'm talking about it, but that's about the extent of my practice in politics. Nathan?
All right, so I actually really like the idea of politics, and I like discussing in a sterile environment how things should.
You mean
work.
on Facebook?
No, not at all. The
That's the
unfortunate.
best place to discuss politics.
I couldn't agree more. The unfortunate side effect of politics for me is that it involves people,
Right.
and therefore it's never really. This is pretty pessimistic of me, but I feel like no form of politics is ever going to work because of the human element. So
Because of people.
Yeah.
People ruin everything.
they do, and so I like politics. I like the ideas there, but I'm a little jaded when it comes to actual real world politics. That being
Right.
said, I do vote in every election that I can.
Did you vote today?
Yes, I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who'd you vote for?
Did you get a sticker?
I had too many questions. Yeah, not that I feel like my vote alone really matters that much, but I do feel like it's just a civic responsibility that you should give your opinion. That's the system we have, and you should utilize it.
Yeah.
I would generally say I'm pretty independent. I have quite a few libertarian ideals, but more so just because that's the way I feel. I don't align with any particular party more than another.
Sure. Well, yeah, we'll get into details a lot more later. But Craig, how about you?
See, I didn't jump off the wagon until this is how recently I jumped off the normal, like, mainstream media wagon.
The team politics?
Yeah, team. Yeah, exactly. The team politics. This is how recent I jumped off that. I'm going to kick myself for admitting this, but I actually did vote for Trump because I did buy into all the stuff that, I mean, this ties into multiple areas. I did buy into the stuff that the church pushed for Donald Trump and for how if we let Hillary win, she'd put in the wrong Supreme Court justices and blah, blah, blah. I didn't necessarily support Trump, but a lot of the stuff that they were saying I was buying into. And it wasn't till maybe like 2 days after I voted for Trump that
Buyer's
I
remorse.
decided that was probably a big mistake. I mean,
Along with most of America.
my background's
I would
obviously
say that that's the case
similar
for anybody that was in the running. So
True.
I mean, I don't want this to be like a Trump bash or anybody feeling like they're wrong for supporting Trump, even because he has some good points. Hillary has some
Yeah.
good points. Gary Johnson had some good points.
Well,
Everybody did, but
Fro-
they were all pretty terrible in their own right.
Well, from the very beginning, the thing that I said Trump did right was bring up the issues because nobody was talking about a lot of these issues. And yes, Trump ran his mouth way too much, but he got the rest of them to have to talk about some of these big key issues that were hot button issues. And Trump brought to light and brought the corruption to light, even though could possibly be as corrupt as the rest of them, but still got people actually having to talk. So I give him credit for actually making the other political politicians have to talk about these non-political issues.
Yeah, let's talk about you. Where do you stand at the moment?
All right. So recently I've come to the conclusion that I am self-proclaiming that I am politically agnostic. I don't believe in any of them. I don't believe any of them have a good thing to say. I haven't really looked too deep into the Libertarian Party. What I have looked into, I do agree with a lot of it, but I haven't looked in enough to actually jump on that wagon yet. And so,
We'll get you there.
as far as what's that?
I said we'll get you there.
All right. As far as mainstream politics, it's the same as every other mainstream thing. Like I said about like the theories and stuff, conspiracy theories. I don't buy into the main story anymore because I think everyone's just talking just to say what people want to hear or talking to cover up what's really going on. And so I think both sides of the political party are saying what needs to be said in order to get them on that ticket. As far as the Republican nomination having to say that he's a diehard Christian regardless of how he acts or behaves, he's a diehard Christian. I don't buy into that. And same with Democrats saying I support not wealthy white people when the Democratic ticket is usually always a wealthy white person. Yeah. And so they just say whatever they want. And so I don't buy into any of it anymore. So I'm just going to have to say I'm agnostic in the political area.
It's all good. Cole, how about you?
What's the question?
Could you repeat the question?
The question is politics,
sleeping?
question mark.
No, politics, question mark.
Go.
I voted third party. I mean, I didn't support...
Gary.
I didn't support any of them, man. Like, I didn't have a guy in the race. You know, it wasn't like I was really behind anyone. I just think that the two-party system is flawed.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It doesn't make sense. I don't even think a three-party system would be a lot better, but it's a step in the right direction.
I agree.
So,
I think it should be infinite amount of parties, and
Right.
you can actually find somebody that you agree with instead of
Right.
somebody who's wearing your colors.
Yeah, and then the funding and how they have to get, people, the nomination of the Democratic or the Republican Party. You can take a good person and even if you had a good candidate, you could take that good candidate, and because they have to jump through the hoops of the party that they wish to secure the nomination from, they become something they didn't set out to be, or we don't want them to be, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it just ends up corrupting them, corrupting the whole system.
Yeah, there's a lot of libertarians that switch over to Republican just because
it's the only party
they didn't have a
has a
freaking chance. But
real, chance. But I think that the Libertarian Party deserves a chance, and if I wasted my vote this season, I feel like that was going to happen no matter who I cast a vote for. So
I would say wasting your vote on somebody that you agree with is
better
than wasting your vote on somebody you disagree with.
I don't know that I really agree with him a lot more than I do the other two. I know I do. Well, I kind of do know that
I do a lot more than the other two, but
I didn't
certainly
agree with any one of them a lot.
Well,
so
as a person who's big into the libertarian stuff, like Gary Johnson really crapped the bed, and he should not have been the candidate. There were way better candidates.
Shining armor. I'm sorry.
Armor.
Armor.
Why do you think they put him in? Was he the...
That's another discussion.
Was Gary the safe pick, or why do you think they put him in?
Well, he was I would say the very short answer. There's a lot of semi-conspiratorial reasons, but we'll get into that on another time. But
sure.
I would say the short answer is they put him in because he was a governor and he had political background, and his running mate Bill Weld was a governor as well, and who became a libertarian about 1 week before he was nominated as the running mate.
So I don't see it as throwing my vote away. I want to give more credence to the third party.
Yeah, I think the concept of throwing your vote away is so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, whether or not you vote,
it implies that your vote counted to begin with.
The only throwing your vote away, in my opinion, is not voting.
I would disagree and say that even not voting is a form of...
I would say that,
voicing your position.
If you disagreed with everybody, don't vote for anybody.
In this most recent election, I could have just as easily not voted.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to send a message, and I hope that enough people in my generation did the same, who agreed with me and thought the same way, so that we can actually send a message that a third party, additional parties other than the Republican and Democratic parties deserve a more prominence.
Yeah.
Because clearly the two choices we were given this season were both terrible.
Yeah, I think they stood the best chance in this election to send that message of a third party being a necessity. But I think one of the major pitfalls of our generation in our voting habits is this concept of top-down voting. Like, we're looking at the president as the reason to stay home or to vote.
Yeah.
When, that's the one position we have the least power to change.
Yeah.
When what we should be looking at is our more
politics.
local and regional politics.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
our representatives have a lot fewer people voting for them, and they're the people that we have the most likely opportunity to encounter and share our opinions with.
Yeah.
So it should be the other way around. I'm going to go vote, even if I don't want to vote for the president. I'm going to vote for my representative and congressman.
Well, I'm bored. Let's talk about religion. I'm just kidding. We just need to keep moving. On religion, I was raised super, ultra, conservative, fundamentalist, and I'm very far from that right now.
Earn your faith.
Yeah.
Earn your salvation.
Quite earn your faith. Nothing against my parents. It's how they were raised as well. But, Mom, Dad, if you're listening, here we go.
The phone's gonna get blown up pretty soon.
I am a believer in God that has come and gone and returned. And, I've had a lot of thoughts about a lot of different things and other religions and, why we think that we know what we know. And I'm open to a lot of things. And I know that the very ultra-conservatives are afraid of being open to things, but I am not. And
it's like that terrible expression that they would post in church bulletin boards: open mind leads to your brains on the floor. And that is what conservatives think having an open mind is a bad thing. It's just not.
That fits right into all three of these areas, really.
Exactly.
Like, don't expand your thought, because then they won't be able to throw whatever they want at you, whatever they want you to think.
And you might not be able to. You might change your position.
Oh no!
Oh my God!
yeah. And an omnipotent God can't possibly handle your thoughts. But, that's my stance. I believe that there is a God, and that is the extent of my fullest beliefs. I believe in lots of other detail things, but they are side stories, in my opinion. Craig, you had the same upbringing, so we'll start with you here. Go.
Yeah, we definitely had a similar upbringings, considering, but
They're brothers.
at this point in my life, I'm sitting pretty close to where you're sitting. I do believe in God. I do believe in Jesus. I believe the Bible is God inspired. As far as anything else, all the man-made crap, I guess most of it's crap. A lot of the man-made stuff, I'd say I don't buy into. Same with politics now, and same with the rest of it. I'm just starting to question all of it, and the church's stance on things and the legalistic stance on things. And I mean, I went through a long period of my life where I was afraid, honestly, to like one of my worst fears was getting in a car accident. Not because I didn't, no, it wasn't, no,
This is just
hear
all
me out. It
too
wasn't even
common.
because I would die.
It was because you didn't say you're sorry right before you died.
No, well, close. But the thing was, I knew for a fact the last words out of my mouth were probably going to be a swear word, because that would just naturally come out of my mouth at
Which
that point.
one?
And I just thought for sure. if that
What's your
happened, I
favorite
was gonna
one?
burn
What
in
would be
hell.
your go-to if you were about to die?
I know
If
what
I was
mine
about to
is.
get in a car accident, I'd probably say like, "Oh shit" or something like that.
Which I mean,
I am like toning it down a little, because I'm not sure where you want to go with the swearing on this podcast. but
Trying to beep out every shit I just said.
I'm going to.
You censor that word?
Tone it down, bro. No,
That word?
I don't care, but yeah, I would say personally, Like, I have podcasts that I love to listen to, and I would love to be able to listen to them around my kids.
All right.
That's a different discussion.
Are you serious?
I think
As I was saying,
Kids, though.
that was my biggest fear for all the wrong reasons, that I thought for sure I was going to burn in hell if I got in a car accident and said that word. And that's how legalistic we were both raised, and probably all four of us were raised pretty similar, it seems like. But further in my life, even like my 20s and stuff, like I was still heavily involved in religion, and I went through a discipleship, like internship, and they preached against the sins of alcohol and smoking and such. And then
And now you're doing
I
both.
started drinking because
Right
it's
now.
enjoyable. So I went through a period of my time where I thought I was backslidden. Like, that's a horrible feeling to think that you're backslidden because you drink alcohol because it tastes good. And so now I'm at a point in my life where I realize the Bible doesn't say any of this stuff that the church is saying. And it's not biblical. It's not backed by the Bible. So I don't know where they're getting it from. And I've gone on a kind of a mission lately to try to figure out where some of these like religious stuff, where it comes from, and I'm not getting really anywhere with it. It just basically comes from, it's all the man-made stuff that I'm saying that I don't buy into anymore. So
Yeah.
that's where I say it. God is real. The Bible is God inspired. Jesus is real. That's about it as
Well, like-
far as what I can definitively say is real.
When you say you don't know where it's coming from, and I agree, I don't think we know all the time. It just makes me think of the fact that most of the time when you hear a pastor, or any person for that matter, raging so hard against one particular sin, it's usually because they have a problem with it. Like
Yeah,
they have an addiction. They themselves have an obsession with it. And
That, or they have something else that they deal with, and they want to make it look like somebody else's issue is bigger than their issue.
I find it's much more common that it's like if you hear a pastor raging about gambling, if you hear them raging about alcoholism or sins of the flesh, or lust, it almost always turns out that they are struggling with that exact
That's
sin.
simple psychology.
And it's not, exactly, it is. And it's not just pastors, it was me. I did that when I was in high school. I did that to people that I was friends with. I would be mad that anybody would watch an R-rated movie because it might have nudity in it. And guess what I struggled with? You know what I mean? Like every young man.
Yeah.
Like 85% of men in their like 40s struggle with.
Every red-blooded.
So let's transition into Cole. How do you feel?
Okay, so I was raised, obviously. I was raised going to church. It wasn't like you had to or you would die. But we went to church most Sundays, Baptist usually.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really know the difference between any of these things because I think denominations are a joke now. And I don't know the difference between them hardly, except for certain interpretations of certain scriptures. So I'm 24 years old now. And up until about 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, a couple of years ago, I was going to church pretty much every single Sunday. I went the day after my wedding, even though that makes no sense at all.
Why would you
didn't
do
do
that?
Because I believed that was what I had to do. I believed that was my conviction.
Yeah.
I'm so far from that now. I'm not a member at a church. I don't go to a church at all. And I'm very happy about it, honestly. And if I could, I would say that out of the four of us, I'm probably the closest to being an atheist. However, as much as I would love to just subscribe to one label, I'm not an atheist.
That's why you're here. You're the token atheist.
Yeah, I'm
Gotta
not. I'm not an atheist. I believe in something. I think it's God, and because of probably my biased upbringing, I believe it's the God of the Bible. But
Sure.
there's lots of trivial sins that people will cite the Bible for that I do not also agree with. I won't go into the specifics.
Oh, you'll be on my Bible inerrancy episode for sure.
I personally, I definitely don't think
wanna
the
be on that
Bible.
one too.
Yeah, I don't think the Bible is inerrant. I think it was written by men. I think it had an agenda at the time it was written. I think that many people have had their hands in it. Although I do still believe that many parts of it, if not, I don't know. It's hard to say how much of it is straight God breathed. Although I do think there's value in that God said that. I think that it is. I think some of it is divine, but
Sure.
I think a lot of it is analogy. I think a lot of it clearly is parable. That's Jesus said it himself. I think a lot of it is oral tradition passed down, metaphorical. I think a lot of it, I think it's all good for teaching, and just like Paul says, I don't know the exact scripture, but useful for teaching.
Rebuking and correcting and training in righteousness.
Right, that part.
Wow.
Hypothetically.
The pastor here.
However, Paul himself also says not that all things. Paul himself says that all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of issue I take with most of the church's stances, to tell the truth. Sorry, I'm rambling, but I don't think it was
All good.
just happenstance. I think that there's a design behind it, and I think whatever designed it is God, is a God, is the God, whatever that is. And because of my upbringing, because of my culture, I do think that most closely is described by the God of the Bible. So that's where I sit, but I will mostly fight you on pretty much everything biblical. So
Sweet. Well, you won't be back. All right, Nathan, the voice of reason. Let's go.
Voice of reason. I don't know how I've earned that title, but my upbringing was churched as well. My father would go.
You know that
twice
he
a
was
year.
raised in the church because he calls his dad his father.
Yeah,
And just
God.
Do you mean your father God? Is that your father God? Or
Father.
is that-
that's actually a phrase that was never uttered in my upbringing. That was something I never heard until I was around more evangelical circles, and it bugged the hell out of me. It's
like they call everybody their brother, like Brother
Yeah.
Smolt or Brother Sipes.
it's
Yep,
a
now be quiet,
mantra.
Brother Smolt. Brother Nathan is talking.
It's just a mantra that means nothing. But my father went
Brother God.
once or twice a year with us. Nothing against him. He had his reasons, and I wouldn't disagree with them. But it was mainly my mother and my sisters would go to church, and it largely was, I don't know, more of a cultural emblem. It had some philosophical value, but it was more a part of your identity than it was whatever it's supposed to be. And I remember from a very, very early age causing my sisters and my family distress by the questions I would ask and the types of things I would say. And they would get upset because I would say things that they didn't agree with or understand. And so, I've always been questioning things, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with all three of these categories is the fear of questions. And
Yeah. I'll give you an example. Even something as, in my opinion, innocent as my saying, I believe in the devil, was misconstrued as satanic. I was discussing this with my sisters who were trying to get me to say, I believe in God, or I believe in Jesus. And I said, well, I believe in Satan. And they took that as me proclaiming homage or allegiance to.
That should be just accepting biblical inerrancy, like in everything literally.
That was my
It should
approach.
be taken. Yeah, if you do, if A, then
believing,
B.
in believing in Satan, I mean, if you believe in God, who says that Satan exists, you have to therefore believe in Satan.
They were taking it as, I am putting my hope and trust in Satan.
Exactly. And
Do they not?
What?
Do they not believe in Satan?
No, I think they did. They just misunderstood my questioning or my position.
Right.
But that was a pretty routine thing for me. I was very interested in the sermons because of the philosophical value. It was just kind of attending, and I appreciated what the preacher had to say, but it wasn't necessarily I don't know. It didn't feel any different. But I grew up Presbyterian, which is a very lackluster, like the Frozen Chosen. They earned that title. We
I've actually never heard that.
well,
No, I haven't either.
We did not applaud after a musical performance. we did not applaud. We sat there silently
Because you were praising the works of men.
It's just a very strange approach to what most people would refer to as worship.
Yeah.
It's very non-active, and all the hymns were more of a dirge. So a very strange environment.
A fun word.
Yeah.
That being said, I stayed there probably until I was about 13 and was involved in some of the, studies and things. I was seeking something more.
You've been a Satanist ever since?
Yeah, I pledged allegiance
Believes
to
in
Satan
Satan.
when I was 4, and I've never
Satan.
abandoned. No, so I mean, when I was a young teen, I began seeking out something more because I felt there was something to what was being discussed, but I didn't feel like it was there.
Yeah.
And I struggled a long time with this idea that had I been born in any other part of the world where Christianity was not the predominant religion of the culture, I would have been brought up to believe that. So am I believing what I believe just because I was told to, or because it might actually be the one that's right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I struggled with that. And so I went on a long inquiry into a bunch of different religions. And
What time would that have been during?
I was probably between 14 and 15, maybe somewhere in that range. I basically left no stone unturned. I really liked Buddhism, and I still do.
Get out of here.
Because I think a lot to
Are
say.
you just going to kick everybody off this podcast?
I like your Buddha.
Yeah.
I do not like your Buddha.
I do not like your Buddhists. I think it's a very non-threatening religion that has a lot of value. It's beautiful, and it has
No
it
wars have ever been started in the name of
I think an
Buddha.
argument is to be made that Buddhism is a non-religion, right?
True.
Because Buddha himself set out saying, do not worship me.
Exactly.
I am not a deity. And then of course people went ahead and made Buddhism.
I need a king.
It's more
and they idolized him and made him into a god.
true.
Which he never wanted to be.
And that's one of the big problems with it. It's more of a way of life, a way of finding your unity with the universe.
Religion is sort of a misnomer.
Exactly.
I'd say we're all good stuff, and we will absolutely get into this more. Let's not dig
Moving
too
on
deep
from
today.
Buddhism.
Nathan,
Anyway,
kind
not-
of give the background. Where are you at now?
Not
Where would
talking
you say?
about Buddhism. So anyway, I moved on. Never stopped believing that there was a power beyond humans that structured the universe in some way. It was just really difficult for me to eliminate that aspect. I didn't know what it was. I struggled with the fact that I was culturally conditioned to believe it was a Christian God.
Yeah.
And I kept struggling with it. Eventually, I came back around to Christianity in what I feel was a pretty non-biased view. I really ran it through the ringer, and it held more merit than what else I was comparing it to. And so I had to ignore my own pre-constriction or my own reservations against Christianity. I shouldn't rule it out just because of my cultural background.
An anti-bias.
Yeah. That being said, I knew what I had been exposed to of this religion was not what I was seeking. And so I began to study more into that and seek out different forms of that, which led me to a lot of places, eventually where I am now, which is a very non-denominational, non-Christian body of believers that I struggle to say that it would even be considered as Christian by a lot of people. But it's a group of people that it allows a lot of latitude in what you believe.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. We're trying to pursue what we know. That being said, I think it's difficult for anybody to say someone else is wrong on a lot of these issues. And I'm not setting out to convince anybody of anything. But my own personal view is that there definitely is a divine being that's greater than us. There has to be, by definition, in my view.
It's me.
It very well could be. And
No, it couldn't.
for
No, definitely not.
for where I'm at now, I could safely say that I believe in what is a Judeo-Christian God. And I also believe in a Jewish man named Yeshua, and
Right.
that is largely what I would construe as my God, is this somehow interweaved grouping of persons that is a God to me,
Yep.
whatever that's worth.
I like it. Very cool. Now, we were supposed to be talking about where we are now, and we totally dove way into upbringing, so we'll skip that topic. Let's talk about... Well, I've got all you guys here.
How do you talk about where you are now if you don't talk about where you've been?
That's very true.
That's right. It's a dangerous business walking
That was
out
deep.
the door.
That was really deep.
There's no rules here. Yeah, the next topic is where you guys want to go with these conversations. Like, what interests you the most? Where would you guys... What do you think people want to hear? Or what would you want to hear if you were listening to this concoction of nonsense?
I would want to hear authenticity.
Any topics in particular? Here.
Literally
Quit
just
giving the most vague answer you could possibly come up with.
authenticity. In
I
the
just
fact
wanna
that
hear-
I don't know where I stand a lot of the time.
Well, I've got a list of potential topics here. Maybe it'll spark some interest, and you guys can jump on one if you think that you want to get on board on that. Basically, how this will probably end up working is we will pick a topic. Me and one or two of the three of you will get together and discuss that topic. We'll do a little bit of research beforehand and know what we're getting into, and yeah, just go from there. So we've got 9/11, biblical inerrancy, the war on drugs, Pizzagate, racism, JFK assassination.
Pizzagate?
Yep.
Watergate?
You don't even know, do you? All right.
Pizzagate. Wow. I didn't know until today, Cole. Don't be.
Oh, it was yesterday. It was yesterday that you were texting me about it.
Pizza.
Was it yesterday? I think it was this morning.
I like pizza.
It's much more horrifying than that.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
Racism, JFK assassination, evolution, the Mandela effect, the minimum wage, flat earth, immigration, homosexuality, stop laughing, spiritual salvation, the Illuminati / secret societies, abortion, the moon landing, assisted suicide. Now go. What do you want?
I think we should definitely talk about racism.
All the above.
Since we are four white men.
We're the most qualified experts.
I'm going to have Carl on
Let's
to discuss that.
Let's
I
tackle the
absolutely-
race.
Carl doesn't
issue.
even qualify.
Can we have a token race here? I think to completely ignore you, Dan. I think
Thank you.
As should be done.
I think I would
have done
agree
well.
with
You
what
guys
Cole was
you guys
getting
are really
at.
making me want to have you back on.
With what Cole was getting at, which was, I mean, for me, I just appreciate real conversations. Like,
Absolutely.
the more sterile this sounds, the less likely I would be to listen to it.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't want to pick a topic and tell people what they should believe. Like, I just want
Right.
to talk to four of my friends.
Well,
or however
yeah,
many.
I think, especially with like the conspiracy stuff, a lot of it's not necessarily opinion if you haven't looked into it, or politics too, even religion. Like we can talk about other religions and things like that. I want to pick a topic, just like something that you're interested in researching a little bit and discussing minimally, like just something that you would enjoy talking about. If you're like, I don't care at all if the government, Bush knew about 9/11, then there's no reason in talking about it if you're just going to be, like shutting it down. But is there something that you would enjoy researching a little bit, or?
I'd say mainly the ones that really have big impact on what we're doing or how we live our life. Like the flat earth thing, I don't necessarily know if I buy into it, but even if it was flat, how does that really impact me? It doesn't really greatly impact me. But something like whether
You're
Bush
out.
knew about
You're out on my favorite episode then.
But as far as whether Bush had some kind of impact on 9/11 or the government backed that, or even if just the official story wasn't true, that has big implications, and I feel that should be dove into. And the Pizzagate thing, even though Cole knows nothing about it,
Most
that's
people
something that,
don't.
if it's true, it's still going on now because it got squashed so quickly that I didn't even hear about it till today when
Nathan
I
doesn't know anything
accidentally
about it
stumbled across
either, so I'm just gonna put it out there.
That's why we're doing this, so we can do a little bit
It
of
sounds like
research.
someone's failed ass attempt at renaming a new scandal.
Okay, how about we call it a pedophile scandal? Like a government
God.
pedophile scandal.
That happened
If
in
that's what
a
it's
pizza
related
shop.
to, yeah.
Let me
That happened
just
at a
say,
pizza shop.
no.
Cole, to defend myself, Pizzagate is a
Yeah.
debunked conspiracy
He's holding his
theory
phone and looking
that
at
emerged
it.
during the
Snopesing it.
2016 United States presidential election cycle. So
For
thank
all
you.
the people who can't see.
All right,
his
that
phone up.
episode's out because Nathan just disproved that in a 15-second Wikipedia
Well-
search.
Oh,
I'm
so,
sold. I'm sold.
So before, what I was gonna say was that I think I don't want to have a bunch of cited resources and quotations for any of these episodes, but
The reason why I say research is because I don't want it to be like, I've looked into these conspiracies. Do you want to come on and I can blab in your face and tell you everything that I've found, and then you can
Yeah.
rebuttal it without any knowledge or background of what Pizzagate is or anything? Like, I don't want it to be like
course.
teaching anybody. I want it to be like, look into it a little bit and then tell me what you think, or we can just chat about the evidence that we found or lack thereof.
I think a lot of these conversations, in a way, are their own. And this is gonna sound crazy, but they're their own religion. Even like science, I think, is a religion. Like everyone just buys into what somebody else says. Nobody fully knows themselves.
Right.
They just listen to, like, as far as conspiracy theories, you have what other people have to say about it, or politics, you have what the last guy said about it. I mean, unless you are there when it happened, I mean, it's all basically a religion. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and like I said in the intro, I mean, we're not here to teach anybody anything, just open discussion about the undiscussable and the uncomfortable. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, Dan, I mean, your mission statement, if there is such a thing for this, is discussing things that you feel you wouldn't be allowed to elsewhere. So,
At the Thanksgiving dinner table.
yeah. So, in my opinion, those are the things we should talk about, is
Absolutely.
whatever it is that you feel like you probably couldn't talk about with just anybody.
Can you imagine sitting down at Thanksgiving dinner and being like, I think 9/11 was an inside job. Let's talk about it.
or even approaching these subjects
like,
even a little bit,
Bringing it up at all.
Like,
At our table where everyone thinks George Bush was like a God-fearing saint, yeah, that
Or
would go along really well.
Probably think that Donald Trump is a God-fearing saint.
or just,
Well, Franklin Graham did say he's witnessed him give his life to Christ, so I'm buying into it.
Yeah.
It's all.
When
the
did that
things-
happen? Was it before the general election?
4 seconds before.
I saw him cut his wrist and bleed out his allegiance to Christ.
I'm pretty sure we're talking about a different religion here.
Oh, okay. Sitting down with your family at your Thanksgiving table and saying, I think black people are okay.
That's hilarious.
No.
Oh, you get kicked out.
I
in a
would be
heartbeat.
kicked out. Or maybe the Indians
Shunned.
weren't Indians and Thanksgiving is a terrible, terrible thing to celebrate.
What are we doing here?
Christopher Columbus is a saint that discovered America.
Well,
Not a fan.
100%.
before this goes
not
off
a
the
fan,
rails,
true.
I'm going to close it out. We can totally keep talking. I'd like to thank all of you guys for being on here, for sure, and your opinions being vastly differing in a lot of ways is very much appreciated, and I appreciate your openness to discussing all these things. So, until next time, keep questioning everything and stay uncomfortable. We'll talk to you then. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that nonsense. Since I still haven't entirely figured out what I'm doing here, I wanted to jump back on and remind you to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or basically any place where you get your podcasts, and be sure to go over and like our page at facebook.com/The System Is Down or be sure to check out tsidpod.com. I'm planning to put another one of these out in a week, so stay tuned, and thanks again so much for checking us out. I really appreciate it. Until next time, stay uncomfortable, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks a lot. This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.